All right. So, welcome to Mr. Raimondi's first ever podcast with students. I'm excited. We don't have a catchy name for it yet, but we'll work on that. I'm here with Ryan Simmons, David Haldane, Lena Ali, Jock Lee, and David Contreras. And our topic of discussion today is what are the wealthiest people in our society doing with their money. So just to start off and just get some groundwork here, who are some of the people that you guys found? You did some background research for this in preparation, so what are some of the names that you came across, anyone of note that you find to be, extremely wealthy?
One of the major ones that I found was a person called Elon Musk. He is very famous at this point, and he has quite a few companies, and in my own research at least, I found quite a few things about him that I didn't really expect he's able to be doing.
Okay, and Musk what kind of net worth are we dealing with here with Elon Musk?
$22 billion.
Yeah. About
What's that?
$22 billion.
$22 billion. Okay, that's big time.
What I found about Elon Musk is that not only does he have like half a dozen companies, maybe a full dozen companies, is that he seems to almost spread the wealth equally almost
Amongst his companies.
Yeah, he doesn't focus all the ones, though I would probably say that SpaceX probably does take a majority of the money due to it being in space, but other than that, he seems to spread it quite evenly and almost thinly, I'd say, given his net worth.
Right. So we're gonna get into how they're spending their money in a little bit. Just we're throwing out some names right now. So was there anyone else that jumped out to us?
Bill Gates.
Bill Gates, right, from Microsoft,
Yeah,
of course.
Jeff Bezos.
Jeff Bezos, Amazon. So relatively new money for Jeff Bezos.
Well, new as in, 2 years?
Yes, Amazon really. The stocks in Amazon have blown up over the last 2 years.
Mark Zuckerberg.
Okay.
Warren Buffett.
Warren Buffett, okay. And Jock, anybody?
I found Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk.
Zuckerberg and Musk. Okay, so we're bouncing around some of the same names that we are that have a lot of wealth in this country or around the world. So were there any surprises there? I know, David, you mentioned that you were kind of surprised that Musk had that many companies going on, but were there any surprises about the companies or the individuals that we found to be so wealthy in this country?
Well, when I looked at Elon Musk, I read that around the time when he started, a few years, he was actually in debt. He had a lot of loans from friends, and but then he ended up working. He ended up building up multiple companies, which is how he repaid it, and then he made even more.
Right, and I think that that's a huge piece of how businesses start. You need that loan, you need that support from someone else, and we talked about that idea in class with a lot of these entrepreneurs took risks. They had to go through the ugly parts of their time to find success. Were there any other surprises, good stories?
One thing that I found that I told you about before we started this is that Musk was inundated in condemning of court over foul tweets, shall I say. I haven't actually had the privy, or lack thereof, to read them myself, but whatever he did, he managed to aggravate a member of the New York State, or citizen rather, and then he got a court ordering of what's the term again? Of paying someone in court, not an embezzlement.
Contempt of court or bribery?
No, it's legal, as in, the court orders you to pay X amount of money.
Oh, okay. He's ordered to pay
Court ordered paying is the term I'm going to use. There's an actual one, but I don't remember
yes.
it. I don't know the specific amount either, but basically he was ordered to pay that and he didn't, so afterwards the court declared him in contempt of court.
So he's getting into financial trouble. We're going to get to that part. So really, let's just start off with, how are these guys spending their money, right? Or ladies for that matter. How are the wealthiest people spending their money? So let's start with David.
Well, I actually looked into it, and like Bill and Melinda Gates, they actually have the Gates Foundation that's
Mhm.
been in action since like 2000, and it's currently the wealthiest charity in the
Okay.
world. It has $51.6 billion.
Billion?
Yeah, billion.
Wow.
Jesus.
And what does the Gates Foundation do? What's their purpose, or what are they using that money for?
Well, basically, what they're doing is they're helping people like lead healthy lives and get their lives together and improve out of like the bad situation that they're in. So they'll go to Africa and like help people out of poverty, give them food, like because they live like they believe in that everyone is equal and every life should have equal opportunity. So they basically that's what they try to do.
Okay. Jock, anything that you found they were doing with their money?
Well, a lot of people that I found, they usually invest their money in like their field, like what they worked in. So instead of donating money to like certain charities that might seem like they just donating to make them look good,
Mm-hmm.
they more like funded their money into businesses that they were interested in, and then
Okay.
that's usually what.
Were there any specifics that stood out to you?
No, not really.
Nothing specific. So instead of just donating to a charity, they're funding, future business adventures. Okay. Lena?
I saw the Giving Pledge
Mm-hmm.
by Bill Gates and Warren Buffett.
Okay. Did anyone else, before Lena talks about it, did anyone else discover the Giving Pledge?
No, this is the first time I've heard of that.
Okay. So, Lena, can you just tell us a little bit about the Giving Pledge?
So it's a foundation, I guess, that Bill Gates and Warren Buffett made, that they're trying to get all the billionaires and the wealthiest people of the world to give away all their fortune by the time they're dead. So, and that's basically it, but not
Yeah.
a lot of people have signed.
Yeah, Warren Buffett, like he's one of the most famous people to do it. He already said that he's going to give 99% of his wealth to charity. So, and then same thing with Bill Gates. Bill Gates is going to give his money to charities and stuff because he doesn't want his children and his family to rely on his wealth. So like there's a lot of and you see that a lot in history, like we said before in class, the Rockefellers, they're still living off of John's money.
Right, and that's not necessarily
Yeah.
like they're just at home doing nothing.
No, of course.
But
of
they've
course.
been given opportunities that most other families don't have. So I just want to get back to this Giving Pledge. I have heard of this before. This is Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, and several other billionaires involved in this group. And how are they spending their money? What are they giving their money away to? Did you find any specifics on that?
No.
So their plan is to donate their money.
Yeah.
Right. I know that Warren Buffett made a joke. He said, anyone worth $1 billion and not willing to live off of $500 million, he found it laughable. And he said, maybe I should write a book about how to live off of $500 million, which is funny because that's money that I'm sure most of us can't even fathom. And Ryan, did you find any other individuals that were spending their money specific ways?
Yeah, pretty much like all the people that we've talked about so far, they have like a lot of properties,
Mm-hmm.
and some of the properties like they don't really live on. They just like own them to own them and like to invest in properties and stuff like that. And they'll have like all these expensive cars and stuff like that. And one of the most expensive properties I saw was like $35 million.
$35 million property.
And like he bought all the properties around him, so it's worth even more.
Who is that?
I honestly don't really remember, but
Don't remember. Okay, so some people are using their wealth, and obviously Bill and Melinda Gates, Warren Buffett, Elon Musk are not living lives that we live.
They definitely
right.
live lavishly.
There is a level of a standard of living that is above.
Yeah.
So do you guys, based on what you found and what we've talked in class, do you all feel that it's the responsibility of these individuals to contribute back to society? Should there be some form of responsibility, or is this something that it's nice
I mean,
but they don't necessarily have to do it.
yes and no, because they do, like, they obviously came up with their own money, and they don't have to give anyone their money. Like, that's not their obligation. But at one point, when you become Jeff Bezos and you have $140 billion, there's only so much one can do with it. And I feel like it just comes with being, like, that rich. You start realizing how lucky you really are, and you start really feeling what it's like. Like, you're driving all these cars, you can only buy so many houses, you can only buy so many cars, and once you do have everything that you need in the world, when you can die and still have enough money for another life, like, you start realizing that it's only better to help out. It's only helping everybody, and it's only making you feel better.
Okay.
You know?
Other thoughts on that?
Going back on what you said, David said rather, on Rockefeller. Yes, Rockefeller he wasn't that much of a philanthropist, at least in comparison to Bill Gates, and is giving away more than half of his net worth already. But Rockefeller also did so much for the United States, and arguably a good chunk of the planet as well, is that I think his family probably would be able to do even more with that, given the talent that Rockefeller had, if he kept his wealth, and not just Bill just giving away all the money the minute he croaked.
So you're saying that it's better to grow your industry and to grow business and spur economic activity than to just give money to charity.
Not to mention that also your children could use the same money and turn it into more, as what the Rockefellers have done. I believe some of J.P. Morgan's kids have also attained ridiculous amounts of wealth from their various outings.
I mean, then you go again to, like, monopolies and stuff. So, like, let's say you are the best in your industry. No one can compete. No one can compete against you. How is that really helping the economy, though? Like, everyone else who did what you do can't do it anymore because obviously they can't compete against you. So how is that really helping the economy in that sense?
That also
You're the only one making money.
That is also a debate of economy of itself. As a monopoly, would you be able to actually help anyone as continuing as a monopoly, or should you stop in order to help?
Other weigh-ins on this? Should they have the responsibility? Are monopolies bad? I mean, I feel like we're going in. I just want to bring it back to the central question of, is there a responsibility? So Ryan, what do you think? Is there a responsibility of these individuals to give back to society, or?
It's kind of like what David said. Like, they don't have to, but, like, they should, because the society is, like, the people who are helping them make all this money and stuff. And, like, just giving it back to the people who are less fortunate. It's just, like, the right thing to do.
Okay.
Because, like, one person doesn't need all this money. Like, yeah, just like David said, like, you eventually run out of
you were
things
just
to do with it.
fortunate enough to, like, have the opportunity and work your butt off and get that money. So, you know, some people don't have that kind of opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are struggling to even get a glass of water, you know? So,
Right.
it just
Lena,
goes better.
where you stand on this?
I don't think it should be a rule, but I definitely think they should feel responsible to give back to their community.
For what purpose?
Like, what should they do with it?
Just why should they give back?
Because
How can they benefit society by giving back?
even though, like, they live on their own with, like, their land and their cars, they should still give back to the community, like, they live at, and they, like to schools, to hospitals.
Okay. And Jock, where do you lay on that?
I don't really think it's necessary for them to give their money away, because, like, if they started where everybody else started and then they worked their way up there, that kind of just shows that they're the best at what they do, and
Okay.
they work for it.
Right. So they started on even playing fields. Why shouldn't anyone else have that opportunity? That makes sense, and that really ties into what we talked about in class with social Darwinism, right? So, just as a refresher, social Darwinism was that application of Darwin's theory of only strong species that adapt will survive. Species that aren't adapted to survival will not. They will die out. They will become extinct, and that's how we landed with the species that we have today. Applied to business, the idea is the strongest businessmen, the strongest business people will step up and be successful, and the weaker businesses, those who don't know what they're doing in business, will fail and not succeed, right? So is that a valid theory? Is that something that is applicable to society?
But if you're at the bottom and you you can't just make your way up with no money. You need a loan from a bank or from your family, or your family's already wealthy, and you use that to make
a stepping stone.
Right, exactly. So everybody needs a stepping stone. You're not going to build yourself up from nothing. It's just not.
But everyone starts from somewhere. Vanderbilt, if I remember correctly, brought his wealth from nothing, from being a Scottish immigrant.
It was Carnegie.
Oh, that was
Carnegie.
Okay.
was the Scottish immigrant.
Okay, so Carnegie brought up from nothing, Scottish immigrant, practically dirt poor, and then went up and up and up, so far as to have his own locomotive named after him, and I think several stations even in New York, not to mention his own railway company in New York.
Yeah, and Carnegie was in the steel business, right? So Carnegie definitely was that rags to riches story, right? Any other thoughts on social Darwinism in terms of, do we all start on the same playing field?
Well, unless you're gonna invent something like Thomas Edison, then you're gonna need a loan, or you're gonna need something to start with.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like some people, that's what I try to get at. Life is equally distributed, but opportunity isn't. So, some people have a better opportunity of becoming successful than other people. What are the odds you're Bill Gates' son? And but I feel like it doesn't survival of the fittest can only go so far as to explain, because I feel like you kind of need some poor people or common people in the world. Everybody can't be a billionaire, but it just all depends on the person. So I know.
Is it only? I'm sorry to cut you off. I'm sorry.
No,
Continue.
No, because there's definitely some people who probably only make $100,000 a year that are happier than some people who make $1 billion a year.
Okay, so I heard, I like what you said there. Life is equal, opportunity isn't.
Yeah.
So my question is then, where does talent fall in here?
Talent, I'd say, would fall in of the tact of a person being able to do what he wants to and finds a goal for what he wants to do, or she.
Right. We've heard these stories, right? So Carnegie, even some names that you may know, like Jay-Z, right?
Yeah.
He's a successful hip-hop artist, producer. He has a clothing label. He's worth, I think, about $500 million, which is nothing to, be upset about.
No, he's a billionaire.
He comes from poverty.
Yeah.
He comes from, the projects in Brooklyn. So he wasn't given that opportunity. He wasn't given that loan. So does talent fall in somewhere? And then the question to build off of that is, do the most talented people who have a natural, it seems, advantage, do they have a responsibility to help the less fortunate?
You can only do so much with talent. You still need to do the hard work.
This is an athlete speaking, right?
Yeah.
Hard work beats talent when
Yeah.
talent doesn't work hard, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Jock, you want to weigh in on this?
Yeah, it's no matter how talented you are, if you don't really show, if you don't really put that talent in a place that is applicable, I guess that it doesn't matter how talented you are, you won't get anywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so then there needs to be this balance of opportunity and talent, and then if you are successful, it seems that the consensus from this group is it's nice to give away our money, it's nice to contribute back, but maybe it shouldn't be a responsibility. Did you find anybody that refused to give back, that doesn't really use their money for the benefit of society, but seems to kind of use it on themselves?
Not really.
I don't think that personality really exists or even has existed, just outside of storybooks or Ebenezer Scrooge type of thing.
Right. So there's a positive to gain from this.
Yeah.
I know that only 5 of the billionaires of the world have signed the Giving Pledge.
Well,
The Giving Pledge. So again, back to the Giving Pledge, which I find so interesting, right? We're talking people that are worth billions. Are they giving their money away? Are they willing to? And some haven't. Why do you think that
Yeah.
is?
well, also, how much does 5% mean? Because 5% of 100 people is 5 people, but 5% of 100,000 is how many?
Okay.
Right, so you said 5%.
It's 40 out of 900.
40 out of 900. So only 40 people have agreed to this out of 900.
Yeah, and there's about a little bit more than 2,000 billionaires in the world right now, and all of them totaled up. So right now there's I'm pretty sure $30 trillion in the world, and those billionaires make up 7 trillion of them. So
Okay. So that's significant. Well, Ryan, did you want to weigh in on that? I thought.
No, I was gonna say what David said. There's like only about 2,000 billionaires.
yeah,
So we're talking about a tiny, tiny percentage of human
yeah.
population.
Mhm.
Should they be responsible for everyone else? Right? When you put it that way,
Like I said, it's
That's
it's
a lot
only-
of
It's only so
responsibility.
much you could do.
So in class we covered the Rockefellers, the Carnegies of the world, but this was in late 1800s, early 1900s. Do you think that there are any advantages or disadvantages for today's billionaires, for today's wealthy?
I mean,
More charities.
yeah, it all depends.
So is
because-
that an advantage or a disadvantage?
I'd say that's an advantage because because you couldn't really, make something like the Gates Foundation without, being able to have access to all over the planet and being it like that. So.
Okay.
I mean, if you're a billionaire, you probably have access.
Yeah,
to
but
all
not
of it.
not when the fastest way you get is a train and not
Oh,
the
yeah.
phone or.
True.
Right, okay. Are there any other advantages or disadvantages?
I mean, you can only do so much. Like, I feel like all the people that we've spoken about, they got successful off of using what they have to their advantage. So, like you said, Jay-Z, he came, poor. And what'd he do? He rapped about being poor and got somewhere. You could literally put anything you have. You could, if you're good at weaving baskets, bam, Weaving Baskets company.
Okay,
it's easy.
Right, so my question really is, do you think there's any more pressure on today's wealthy? Because we know who they are.
Yeah.
We can Google
Oh,
their images.
definitely.
Definitely.
And
yeah.
do you think that plays a role in the amount that they're giving back?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't think that's a bad thing, though.
Okay, so
But some people
Explain.
might feel pressured when
Yeah.
they do. They could just do
Yeah,
something they absolutely hate and then
Yeah.
then end up resenting what they did.
The
because-
pressure is definitely there, especially because of technology and stuff. Like, now we can see things that are happening nowhere near
quickly.
us.
So,
Yeah.
but why do you think that's a good thing to have
They're
that pressure?
billionaires. They can handle pressure.
I mean,
Okay.
Mark Zuckerberg would probably disagree with that.
So we're almost peer pressuring today's wealthiest people into helping, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't necessarily seem that way,
Yeah,
right?
like-
Because if I'm a billionaire, I can do whatever I want, right?
Right.
Only
That's true.
40 out of 900 signed the pledge. So no one's forcing Bill and Melinda
Yeah,
Gates to give their
But
wealth
they do
away.
it. It's almost like you said. There's definitely some pressure there, because let's say there's a foundation or a charity, and me and you donate $50, and Bill Gates comes in and he donates $50. Everybody's gonna be like, "Whoa, Bill Gates donated $50? What is this?"
Are there any other advantages or disadvantages that we found? Or really anything else that we found that we wanted to discuss today? We still have a few more minutes left.
Probably more things to donate to charity than it is today than it was 100 years ago, 80 years ago.
So there's more available charities.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I also think that comes with new problems that we have.
Yeah,
That's
exactly
also
like
true.
technology.
I know. Well, there was technically breast cancer in Rockefeller's time, and he even donated to that, but he couldn't donate nowhere near the amount of help and research that Bill Gates did to breast research. I think he
Yeah.
did a couple of
Right.
years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Were there any other pressing issues that we wanted to discuss?
No, not really.
Okay, so just final closing question, really wrapping it back up to social studies class. Are there any similarities or differences that are significant between the Rockefeller, Carnegie, Vanderbilts, those industrial age businessmen, to today's wealthy? are we seeing any connections, good or bad, or just are we comparing apples to oranges, or are we kind of in the same place as a society? So I just want to give everyone a chance here.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start with Ryan, and we'll just come right around.
Well, I think it was like both different and the same for like many reasons, because like social media and technology and all this stuff like plays a huge role. Because like back then, like as you said, like the pressure and like all this other stuff, like people know what they're doing with all their money now, instead of like back then, like they didn't like really have to donate because like they could have just said it, and like nobody would have really known. But like now everyone finds out everything like so quickly. So yeah, I guess there's like a difference there. But they're the same, and like they all started from somewhere. Now they have all this money, and they just like either can give it away, or they can keep it and pass it down to their family.
Right. So there's still that problem.
Mm-hmm.
It's not necessarily a bad problem, but what do I do with my wealth? Okay, David.
I think there is a pretty major difference. All the things that could have been built up in the industrial age, railways, factories, buildings, cities, those have all been built up by now, and what can you really add on to that besides greater technologies? Going back to Elon Musk, his SpaceX is probably like the new robber baron or railway barons rather, of just keep building and building and building railways, not only for his own profit, but also to advance the species.
Right, and you mentioned before that might be a way of contributing. I may not be giving away to charity, but I'm furthering technology, I'm furthering, the possibilities of human achievement. Lena?
I was going to say what David said, like back then there was so many opportunities, there was so many things they could do. There wasn't a lot of available things, and it was the industrialization like period of time, and there was so many things, there was so many opportunities that they could take and they could
There were no
use.
rules.
Right,
back then, right?
That too,
Right.
That's a big thing of rules of
There were
what
no
to do and
rules.
what not to do.
Right. Jock, what do you think here?
I think there are a lot of differences, but then, like, looking at their personality, I think they all have kind of like this hustle mentality. Like, even though they were, like, a lot of them, they hit like really low points where they owed a lot of money, they eventually all came back from it, and they made even more. So I think they kind of have like this, they don't want to give up.
Right. And I think that contributes a lot to the social Darwinism piece, is I went through the tough times and I came back and I was successful as well. David, final thoughts here?
I just feel like what they had in common was that like John D. Rockefeller, like Carnegie and all of that, like they kind of set the stage for like Bill Gates and Elon Musk. But because like if you think about it, like years and years before that, before John D. Rockefeller and everything, the richest person that you knew was usually like the king, the queen. They had the most money. But now we live in an era where there's an American citizen that has more money than the president.
Right.
And it's just like they set the whole stage for them and stuff, and it's like it's okay to like have that much money and help out. Like you know what I'm trying to get at?
We
like
don't have
now,
to hoard the money. I
Yeah.
don't have to hold on to the
yeah,
money.
like, cause like it's different when you get to that kind of wealth. Like
Right.
us, like if we drop $5 or if we got charged an extra $1, like we're gonna say something, we get upset. But to them, what is $500 to donate?
Right.
What is $10 to make somebody's
but we're
day
not
better?
talking about donating $500.
Oh,
I
of
mean,
course,
like
yeah.
Lena
It's
said, we're talking about
hundreds of
donating
millions.
billions.
Yeah, of course,
right,
yeah.
billions of dollars. I think that it's a question that has not been answered yet. I don't know if there's a perfect answer to it. I want to thank you guys for all, for helping out with this podcast. I think we did an excellent job. I think this is something that we're going to continue to do for social studies. I think it's the modern way of discussion, podcasting and sharing your ideas, and this may be something that maybe one day one of you guys will do professionally. Who knows? But thank you, and I appreciate your efforts.
Yeah.